Hi, host Eric here. I was talking with other people. I'm going to make a brief video. I think I'm titling it Gender and Discourse, or Gender and Relational Communications, or something. I don't know. I'm going to start this video by talking about my ex-wife and my relationship with her, and how it came to be that we got divorced, and stuff like that. So, what happened between us was a gradual escalation around a few key barriers that at the beginning of our relationship got in the way every once in a while. Like, oh, there's that thing. Well, that showed up again. Well, that's just, it shows up every couple months or whatever. But by the end, it was a non-stop battle over this. And what it is I'm talking about specifically is the issue of tone versus content. My ex-wife and I had this fight continually at the end. Literally continually. Because I was fighting to save the marriage. She was fighting to prevent any solutions from working. It produced an odd environment in which to live, right? Where you have somebody constantly complaining to you about stuff and what you're doing wrong, constantly telling you about what you're doing wrong, and then preventing you from fixing anything. It was a challenge. I mean, the number one thing I had to fix was the first area where I was going after here with her, because I needed to have her make some changes. I mean, she had to once I quit drinking, because basically I traded all sorts of things for alcohol, and I never wanted to fight with Candace when I was drinking. I just, whatever, just go along and get along, because I was too vulnerable. I was too weak. I wasn't going to win any of these arguments. They would always end with, well, you're a drunk. And I couldn't deny it. And I was just like, man, well, you're right. And I'd feel a lot of shame, and Anyway, after I quit drinking, some things simply had to change. They had to, because it wasn't something I thought through. It just, in retrospect, you realize, oh, Jesus. Well, of course, I'm surprised I was as cooperative as I was in some sense. But she had gotten into a long-standing habit, my fault, I was the one who was drunk all the time, of constantly policing me. I never liked it when I was drunk. It caused some friction between us, but I prioritized the alcohol. I mean, I thought it through. I'd be like, don't fight her about that. Then this is going to come up. And then I have some more alcohol. Don't fight her about that being anything, whatever it was, because it would lead to this, and then I was going to lose. Now, she's continued behaving in a similar fashion. Behaving as though I simply couldn't be trusted to make decisions. I think she was way too much like that, even when I was drinking, except for the very, very end of drinking, when maybe I deserved that a little bit. But for most of our marriage, she was varying degrees like that, and I was varying degrees of resisting it, and varying degrees of putting up with it. And I was happy when I quit drinking, because I thought to myself, in general, I'm going to be able to fix this. No problem. Not specific to the thing I'm talking about here, but in general. So, the issue, tone versus content, was a fight we had a million times. And it went like this. Eric, I don't like the way you're talking to me. And I'd say, okay, all right, my mistake, I apologize. Let me ask it in a different way. And it would be too late. We'd already be on to the topic of my tone or my delivery. What I eventually came to realize is that because I tried all kinds of different tones and all kinds of different deliveries, and none of them worked because the problem wasn't actually my tone or delivery. The problem was that she and I were operating on entirely different reward economies. So she didn't want a solution. She wanted me to be a different person who behaved entirely differently. She didn't want to make compromises beyond a certain distance, and that's not her fault. She's not a compromising personality type. She's not as adaptable as the ENTPs. We can put up with a lot of stuff. We can compartmentalize well. And we can take actions to structure things so that the problem gets fixed. I mean, the thing is, I'm not usually willing to allow something that bugs me to persist. I'm going to keep messing with it until, as long as it reminds me that it's bugging me. I mean, if she had just stopped fighting with me, I would have gone. I mean, the thing is, I was getting nothing positive from her anyway, because she hated me so much. The woman absolutely despised me. I don't know what else to say. By the end of our marriage, she could not stand the sight of my face without just wanting to throw things at me. I don't know. I guess I'm a kind of difficult person to be with. But the problem ultimately was that she just didn't want to be pinned down on anything. She hated being held accountable to consistency. She hated it like nothing else. Because to her it didn't matter. That wasn't the point. The point was simply this. I know what I want and you aren't it. She couldn't possibly say that to me. Not as an FE Dom. She couldn't even admit it to herself. About a year or so before we got divorced, I started periodically saying to her, probably more even, about a year. I mean, I used to say it, I'm sure, when I was drunk too, but I don't really remember all that stuff very well. Anyway, a year before we got divorced, I started saying periodically, and eventually with, I guess, a little bit more frequency. I never said it a lot. It was something that I just, because it's not something it wasn't used as an argument, is the thing. It was a sad acknowledgement to myself that I just said out loud, which was, man, you really hate me. And then, of course, she started with the, I don't hate you, I love you so much, kind of shit. But it was just bullshit. I mean, she didn't understand. Neither of us, I guess, understood what love was. She believed love was attending to things. I believed love was my attention, more or less. What else could it be, really? I gave her a lot of that, for my standards. But she wanted the attention, and she wanted it on her terms. She didn't want me to make deals with her, which is what I wanted to do, right? Well, how about we try this? How about we try that? Because, once again, her core point was, you're not the person I want to be with. You're not what I want. You and my vision of life are at direct odds with each other. I visualize a doting husband who attends all the family gatherings happily, excited to go to them. I said, Candace, if you'd let me be me, I'd be a lot more likely to go to these things. I might even be excited to go to them if I were allowed to, be fucking host Eric. I don't know. Draw pictures, talk to people, try to interview them, take pictures of shit. Just be active and stuff. Without restraint. Without, no, don't do that. Because the thing is, it's one thing when I'm drunk, I understand it because I don't really know. I don't know what it was like for her because I just don't remember very well. And when you're drunk, you're kind of locked into a reality. You don't have much inter-reality flexibility. But I think it's important to note here that this issue of tone versus meaning is a temporal issue as much as anything else. Which is to say, the problem for her was how I was making her feel in the moment. The problem for me was the long-term implications of her not wanting to be pinned down on stuff, which included that I wasn't going to be able to fix this. Because she didn't want a one-time solution that was going to, or even, like a plan that was going to fulfill my end of the bargain that was somehow going to solve the problem. Not, you shouldn't have to maintain solvency. That's bad. Solvency means, solvency means it's solved. Not, it's temporary fix until it falls apart a few minutes from now. So I was upset about the long-term implications of her refusing to be pinned down. If you will not allow us to set up a criterion for success here, like what's going to make you happy, she didn't like the fact that I was parsing her unparsableness. But at the same time, she wasn't using words that expressed accurately what was going on. She was describing reasons why she felt the way she felt. But when I said to her, these reasons you're giving me. So you said you're upset because I don't greet your family members enough when I come in the house. That was an example. That's one that she was upset about. So how about we can talk about this. No problem, Candace. This is something that's very feasible. We can come up with a schedule. These are the holidays. I'll commit to it. I agree. I've been kind of an ass about the holiday thing heretofore. I'm willing to give it my trying hard. Okay? Seriously. I will seriously try hard. And well, she doesn't want that, of course, right? She wants to feel in the moment what she pictures is a potential feeling. And I would agree with her that it is a potential feeling, possibly, for her. And that it is worth pursuing, for sure. She's picturing a feeling in the moment of synthesis or synergy or something like that, or connection with her spouse that says, whew, I can relax. I'm with you. I know you're not going to do anything awkward. And that's awkward according to my definition of it. I know that you are going to, if you don't naturally immediately go in and hug my family and stuff like that, that once I give you this is what's expected, that you'll snap to and manifest that, because you'll want that, because you'll recognize it as the good that I recognize it as, and the level of significance that I have placed upon it. This spouse does not place that level of significance. In fact, he thinks the amount of significance I'm placing upon it is somehow a moral failing on my part. Yes, he's willing to adjust his behavior, but his reality is aggressively dismissive of my own. And so I really can't tolerate that, and I'm going to have to go. But she's not an NT. She's an SFJ. So she didn't say any of those words. She said opposite words than that. And confused the living shit out of me. And she had, this was not, she was just as confused as I was, believe me. She didn't know, she wasn't trying to do this. Believe me, she was not. It's just that, to me, that's what she should have told me, right? That makes sense to me. What I just said, all that stuff, that makes sense. But what was actually occurring was she was telling me the problem is I'm not talking to her in the right way. And then when she's talking about more specific stuff, like, well, here's some actions, that my solutions won't work because X, Y, and Z, none of which work. Your solutions won't work because I won't allow them to work because of all the stuff I just said. So this video didn't go exactly where I expected it to go, but I hope you enjoyed it. I think, personally, I enjoyed making it, and it's interesting to think about those communications that we had now that I'm away from it some distance. They're kind of nutty. They're crazy. And she would just, man, was she good at shifting ground. Man, you could not pin that woman down on anything.